I want to give you my impressions of the Tucker Carlson interview of Vladimir Putin. It's almost midnight. It's very late at night. I picked up from where I left off in December, coming back and doing full-length videos. I'm trying to keep these down in length a little bit so that I don't bore you completely. And I'll try to stay on track. I fell asleep in the last part of watching the second hour of this interview. I began this morning and I'm finishing it's past my bedtime. But I want to give you my impressions. And these are salient, important impressions. And this is what's missing in the Tucker Carlson interview. We have two gentlemen talking about Nazis who don't know what a Nazi is. Neither one of them. Of the two of them, Vladimir Putin has the greatest likelihood of understanding what it means. Now, I'm going to use Eustace Mullen's definition of Nazi. It stands for N-A and Z-I. N-A being the initials for the German word for their National Socialist Party, and Z-I being for Zionist International. Now, the Zionist International is what did the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. And so Mr. Putin may actually be defending and guarding against that information coming forward. I cannot be sure. I've never met the man. I've never talked with him. The language is so different that I wouldn't trust my ability to really get the truth from the man, okay? A little different with Tucker. I could read him far better since it's pretty much the same language, even though English is sloppy as hell. What's missing is what the Nazis are in the Ukraine, who the Nazis are. And the irony of it is, there's several ironies to this. One is that the most obvious presence of Khazaria is on the flags. It's the old symbol under which the ancient nation of Khazaria went to war. There's a specific name for it. I don't remember it. However, that banner has morphed over time and it's been used several different ways. And I have a picture of it that I could use, but I don't want to risk copyright strike or something like that with YouTube. I don't use thumbnails because I don't understand these technical legalities. And this one picture tells the history almost completely. If you look carefully at the insignia, the shoulder patches of each of those different military regiments in the Ukraine, and we haven't heard about those in a long time, nor have we seen those, but at the beginning we saw those patches. And on each one of those patches was a tiny Khazarian symbol, the symbol under which the Khazarians went to war. To me, this was a statement. The statement was very factual. They're going to war under the symbol of ancient Khazaria. They are united under the old warlord style of Khazaria. And you're going to say, who the hell was Khazaria? What is Dr. Kent talking about? Khazaria was an ancient country that disappeared about 1100 AD. Why did they disappear? Well, that's really important in this whole thing because you see the Russians, the good Russians, the white Russians drove them off. And they pushed them westward. And they settled in Lithuania and Poland. And they became the Ashkenazi. These were Turkish-Mongolian people of Turkish-Mongolian stock. They were not from ancient Israel. They were not Israelites. Rather, they were Turkish-Mongolian, and there was I don't know what to call it exactly. I don't like to use the term infection, but in a certain sense, that's what it was. the people of Mount Seir, which is also known as Mount Edom, which is in the southern part of Israel, migrated up there in about 700 AD. A group of them went up there because the Bulgar, the chieftain of Khazaria, decided to convert. He had Christians and Muslims around his nation, and if he became one or the other would attack him, and he wanted to stay neutral, which is kind of insane because they loved war. They loved war so much they had a standing mercenary army of like 40 million or something, and they hired their army out to whoever would pay them the most. So they were constantly going in and out to war. They loved it. They also did the religion out of Babylon. And it was a really strange religion. And they also included in the religion from Mount Edom. And that's very important, because when you understand the Bible, you understand that Cain was a descendant of the union of Eve with a serpent. So Cain was a hybrid. He was part Adamic DNA from his mother Eve and part satanic DNA from his father Satan, the dragon, the serpent. And it was he, Cain, who killed his half-brother Abel. That's right at the beginning of the Bible. And most of these churches are controlled by the evil one, so they don't tell you that. They won't let you even think about that. They won't let you even consider that. That is knowledge that's withheld from you purposely. Why? Because the evil one and his children own the planet, and they don't want you discovering who the hell they are. Now, the Ashkenazi, for the most part, are from ancient Khazaria. And those are the people who, for the most part, like 90% or something like that, are inhabiting Palestine, calling it Israel today. And the real name should be Rothschild land. That little postage stamp of a country, Israel, has nothing to do with the House of Israel, except it is a fraud. It pretends to be the House of Israel. They pretend to be the Israelites. There is a vast difference between an Israeli and an Israelite. The Israelis occupied that little postage stamp of a country regardless of how you look at it. Whether you want to call it Israel or Palestine, those are the people that took that over from the Palestinians after World War II. So, the National Socialist and the Zionist International are two heads of the spear against Western civilization. The National Socialists are a disguise for the world revolution. And the Zionist International are not really a disguise, but for the Zionist revolution. They're political movements. They're not racial. They're not religious. And most of those folks that live in Israel aren't Orthodox Jews. They aren't even, well, they're atheistic. You know, we accuse the communists of being atheistic. So it is a real conundrum in the Middle East, yet is being revealed. Now, in case you're wondering what's going on, the folks in Israel are trying to establish the New Jerusalem, the New Israel, in their real homelands of ancient Khazaria, which is pretty much the western region there. We call it the Ukraine today. So it was bigger than the Ukraine, and the Ukraine was the western region of Khazaria. It was the biggest nation in Europe, and it was massive. And they loved war, and the White Russians drove them off, got tired of their warring ways, and they converted to Judaism so that the chief knew that his princes would be loyal to him by bonding to him through the religion. They adopted Judaism. They weren't born Israelites. They were born Turkish, Mongolian, and the Edomites went up northward to help them in their conversion in about 700 AD. That's what you really need to know, and that's what you're missing. And so the big part of the story you need to understand is that, as it says in Revelations 2:9 and Revelations 3:9, and this is Yahshua Christ, the Messiah, speaking, and this is John, the apostle, the one whom Jesus loved, on the island of Patmos, taking the dictation and writing the book of Revelation. And it says, I know you who say you are Jews and are not. In other words, they claim they're Israelites, and they're not. And one of those verses says, but are of the synagogue of Satan. And the other verse says, I shall make you of the synagogue of Satan. So what we have is a double witness in the Bible. And what we have is a warning for the rest of us that these people claim they are Jews and are not. And if we look carefully to Edwin Black's transfer agreement, we will see a documented history of the two groups that were negotiating, vying, competing with one another to represent the Jews worldwide to make a deal with Adolf Hitler to establish the transfer agreement to establish the Jewish state in Palestine, a state formed by terrorism, a state that continues with terrorism to this day. And they claim Hamas attacked them. Oh, hell no. The Mossad founded Hamas. The Mossad, the Israelis, control Hamas. They set that thing up there. Their real target are the real Israelites in the United States of America, the great nation that was foretold in the book of Genesis towards the end. We are the descendants of Manasseh. Part of the meaning of the name Manasseh is forgetfulness, amnesia, forgetting who they are, forgetting who they were. However, when our nation was founded, our founders knew who they were. They knew who we were. Every one of them read the Bible for a primer. Everyone learned English and studied it as their main book in school. Today we've been dumbed down and deprived of our education, of that education. And as a result, we don't know who the enemy is. And more importantly, we don't know who we are. So we're totally vulnerable to these hybrids. I don't like to call them folks. I don't like to call them people. They are hybrids. And of course, you're foolish enough to think that we all came from Adam. Oh, no, not at all. There were several different groups of people on the planet before Adam. Adam was a latecomer to the whole thing. So there are several species, at least 35. There's been so many species on this planet, it's not funny. And we are in approximately the 1,000,000th Earth age since the universe was created. I've done the math, and if you go along with the Big Bang Theory, enough time has gone by that we've had 1,000,000 of the 12,068-year periods known as Earth ages, or otherwise known as a day of the Lord. Yes, all that stuff is real. It's encoded in the Bible for you to discover. Now, I believe I've exceeded 20 minutes. This is video number 171. What is missing from the Tucker Carlson interview of Vladimir Putin? Thank you for tuning in. Please like this video, share it, subscribe. I'm basically shadow banned, throttled down, because YouTube is allergic to the truth. I hope you will love the truth. Love the truth. Love truth and justice. Praise Yahweh.